Finally! Finally! Real football! Hey, good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. Yeah, that's right. It's me, Uncle Lou, and I'm live for you on LouTube today. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it also. And too, hey, subscribe to this channel if you're not already. Did you know I post college football videos almost every single day of the year? It's true. Some of them are even watchable. And now that the SEC is kicking off, a lot of them are going to be watchable. In today's video, I'm going to give you a preview and a prediction against the spread for every SEC game this week. And all 14 teams are playing at 7 games, all SEC versus SEC. Let's go. All right, now as usual, all the odds that I use in this video, the lines, the spreads, the point totals, over-unders, all the money lines, all that kind of thing, is going to come straight from betnow.eu. This is the 3rd or 4th year in a row that I've been lucky enough to work with the good people over at betnow.eu. They treated me really well. Let's return the favor. If you guys want to do some gambling on college football this year, do it at betnow.eu. It's really simple to use. It's really easy to get money in, get money out. It's really easy to sign up for an account. It couldn't be any easier. When you sign up for an account, make sure you use the promo code Uncle Lou. That's one word, all lowercase letters, Uncle Lou, and they're going to give you a bonus on whatever you deposit. Good luck. All right, here we go. It's time for some SEC football. Now, I'm going to do today's video the same way I always do my preview and prediction videos. I'm going to start with the noon games, and I'm going to work my way up through the primetime games. I'm going to get 2 preview and prediction videos out today. This one first, which is going to cover all the SEC games. I decided to do the SEC first since it's our first week of SEC football. Later today, I'm going to have a second video up for you that's going to be a preview and prediction of all the other big games this weekend not involving the SEC teams, headlined, of course, by the big Miami versus Florida State game coming up in primetime on ABC. And trust me when I tell you, you do not want to miss that second video, specifically the preview of Florida State and Miami. I have heard word on the street. We're going to have a brand new super fan here today to give us his thoughts on that Miami-Florida State game. But that's coming up later. Let's jump into the SEC right now. We're going to start it off noon on ESPN. Big game here, I think. Florida on the road at Ole Miss, right? Florida's a 14-point road favorite in this one. Ole Miss, brand new coaching staff headlined by head coach Lane Kiffin. That's right, the Lane train is back in the SEC after what seemed like a blink of an eye spent at Tennessee almost 10 years ago now, right? He didn't last there long. Left Tennessee to take the job at Southern Cal. Some stops in the NFL, some stops at Alabama, some other stops along the way. FAU, was it, he was at. And now gets another shot into Power 5 at Ole Miss. Now, they were not a great team last year, clearly. That's why they fired their coach and decided to go a different direction. Lane Kiffin is known as an offensive-minded guy, right? A pretty smart offensive-minded guy. Nick Saban famously brought him in 2014, 15, whenever it was, to turn his offense around. Nick Saban had been sort of a defensive, conservative, ground and pound type of coach for the majority of his career. College football started shifting a little bit towards some more explosive offenses. Saban brought Lane Kiffin in. Rest is history, right? You have Blake Sims, Jalen Hurts, Tua, Bryce Young, the next one in that line of quarterbacks there at Alabama. And Lane Kiffin is what started that at Alabama. He's widely known as an offensive guru. Can he do anything at Ole Miss in year one? I think he can. I think Ole Miss actually has some talent. They got a couple of quarterbacks I think Kiffin can work with. John Rice Plumlee being one, Matt Corral, I believe, being the other one. We'll see which way he goes. Maybe both play. I like their wide receivers, and they've got one of the best pass rushes in the SEC. Not the best. They're not the top 3 or 4 or anything like that, but they got a really good pass rush. So I think there's some pieces there in Oxford for Lane Kiffin to work with. Now, this is a tough draw week 1 for Lane Kiffin, the opening game to host top 10 Florida. I do think Florida is a legitimate top 10 team. There's some talk about Florida being overrated this year. I don't really see it. They return, of course, quarterback Kyle Trask. They've got plenty of talent at the wide receiver position. Offensive line should be improved this year versus what we saw last year. They lost a few key pieces on defense, but they've recruited okay on that side of the ball. We'll see. I think Florida's a really good team. I don't think this is an easy game for Florida, but it's one that I think they definitely should win. Now, if you go back to my off-season videos that I made, when I did my preview of Florida, I actually picked them to lose this game. But that's when they were playing this game in the middle of the season right after Florida hosted LSU. And my thinking was, well, Ole Miss with a first-year head coach and a weird offseason will be better as the season goes along, as opposed to when the season first starts, right? Plus, I picked Florida to beat LSU at home. Big emotional win over another top 10 team, emotional victory, hard fought, tough physical game. And then you got to turn around the following week and go to Ole Miss. That's why I picked Florida to lose that game initially. I do not think Florida loses this game on Saturday, although let's be real, it would be hilarious if they did. I always root for Florida to lose. Well, almost always. Saturday won't be any different, but I just don't see it happening. I do think Ole Miss wins the game. Florida wins the game. Now, Florida's a 14-point favorite. This line has moved quite a bit this week. 14 seems like about the right number to me. I don't think there's an obvious side to play here. I'm going to take Ole Miss in the 14 just to give me another reason to root against Florida in this game. But I don't think this is one I would actually bet money on. Florida, if they're as good as advertised, could win this game by 3 or 4 touchdowns, especially if Ole Miss isn't able to get anything going offensively with Lane Kiffin's new offense against that Florida defense. I don't know, but so I'm not actually going to play this game. To give me another reason to root against Florida, though, give me Ole Miss and a 14 points. All right, the second 12 o'clock game comes on over on the SEC Network. We have number 23, Kentucky, on the road at number 8, Auburn. Now, a lot of people are looking for an upset somewhere in the SEC this week, and this is one of the games, really the primary game, that I've seen people point to. Kentucky goes on the road to take on number 8, Auburn. Auburn's a 7.5-point home favorite in this one. Traditionally, Auburn has one of the best home field advantages within the SEC, a conference that is filled with significant home field advantages. With limited crowds this year and attendance cut to around 25 to 30 to 35%, depending on the stadium, how much of an impact is that going to have on a team like Auburn, who traditionally gets a boost from that home crowd? I'm not sure. Some people are very high on Kentucky. I know at least one individual who has picked Kentucky to win the East. I don't see that happening. I have been higher on Kentucky this offseason than the average fan has. Not high enough on them to pick them to win the East. And I don't know if I'm high enough on them to pick them to get to win week 1 on the road at Auburn. Now, Auburn's got a lot of questions that need to be answered early on in this game. Offensive line, defensive line, running back. How much better is Bo Nix year 2? Auburn lost its leading returning rusher in February, Boobie Whitlow. He transferred out of the program. They lost a lot of talent to the NFL along the defensive line. Now, they've recruited really well on both sides of the ball, particularly, though, on the defensive line. They're going to have talent there. Can it replace the talent that left? Probably not immediately, but I still think it's plenty of talent along that defensive line at Auburn. The biggest question mark I have about Auburn is their running game. They haven't been a great running back team consistently in a while. They've had some good running backs. They've struggled with injuries at the running back position. Now losing their leading returning rusher heading into this year, a lot of question marks there. And then you've got Bo Nix. Bo Nix looked like a lot of freshmen looked last year, right? Some moments he looked amazing. Some moments he looked lost. This is very typical of freshman QBs. It's not an indictment of Bo Nix. You see this a lot. No matter how talented a guy is, freshman mistakes are going to happen, right? He's got to improve throwing the ball, though. We all know what he can do with his legs. He's an amazing athlete. He can pick up first downs with his legs for you. He can extend plays, scramble, extend the pocket, all those types of things. He's got to get more accurate, particularly on the deep ball. I heard a stat actually yesterday or the day before. Bo Nix only completed 33% of his passes last year on passes of 10 yards or more. That's extremely low. That's very low. That tells me that he's hitting a lot of short routes, out routes, curls, hitch passes, those kinds of things. Got to be able to stretch the field in the SEC. Explosive plays, obviously a huge deal anywhere you look. This has the potential to be a good game. I do think Auburn is better than, or Kentucky is better than most people think. But they've got some questions too. I'm not sure if they're as good as they were a couple of years ago when they had a couple of beasts there. Benny Snell, was it Josh Allen? Not Josh Allen. What was his name? I'm drawing a blank on his name. The outside linebacker / defensive end that they had. I'm not sure they have anybody that's at that level right now. Now, overall, as a team, they may actually be a little bit better now than they were then. Stoops has done a pretty good job at Kentucky in elevating the overall level of talent that's there. Now, clearly, when you look at the recruiting rankings, they're nowhere near an Alabama, an LSU, a Georgia, a Florida, an Auburn. But considering that they're Kentucky, I think Stoops has done a pretty good job there and has them headed in a positive direction. This will be huge for Kentucky to go on the road and get the win here. I'm not sure they can pull it off. I'm going to take Kentucky in the 7.5 points, though. That's a little over a touchdown. Maybe Auburn does struggle a little bit running the ball and Kentucky's able to keep it close. If Bo Nix has a couple of turnovers or Kentucky somehow gets a couple of extra possessions. And Terry Wilson's got to have a good game. He was out last year with that injury. Another one that was up and down when he did play the year before. He likes to run around too. He's got to improve his accuracy. He came to Kentucky with the nickname Touchdown Terry. Halfway through that season in 2018, it was changed to Turnover Terry. Now, if Kentucky goes in there and turns the ball over and can't get first downs, this game's over before it starts. I'm not sure that will happen. We've seen a lot of weird things happen in week ones of these games. Which of these teams is going to be the more prepared? And that's the case of any game we look at today. And we really don't know that. How much of a distraction has COVID been to each individual team? We don't know. Some teams, as we've seen, have clearly been more impacted by the coronavirus and the difficulties that it's posed in terms of practice schedules and things like that. Some teams have been more impacted than others. Which one of these two teams will be more impacted? We won't know until this game is played. I'm going to take Kentucky on the road in the 7.5 points, but I expect Auburn to win a close one. How about Mississippi State at the Corn Dog? Corn Dog, defending national champions, 15-0, unbeatable, best team in the history of teams. We've heard it all offseason long. All those people are gone. What do you have left? Ed Orgeron and a quarterback that's never played before. That's about what you have. And a defensive back or two. LSU, listen, LSU is extremely talented, supremely talented. They were extremely talented last year when they went 15-0. That's not the problem. The problem is they were also extremely talented the year before in 2018, and in 2017, and in 2016, and in 2015, and in 2014. LSU has not earned the benefit of the doubt in my mind. They're not Alabama. They're not Oklahoma. They're not Clemson. They're not even Ohio State. A team that you don't even have to look at them. You know they're going to win 10-plus games. You just know they are. They do it every single year. LSU has not established that. There's no taking away from what LSU did last year. It was one of the most remarkable seasons we've seen in a long time, particularly on offense. It was just unbelievable. But that quarterback, Joe Burrow, is gone, as is the guy that implemented that entire offensive scheme, Joe Brady. He was only there for 1 year. How much, in 1 year, was he really able to implement that system enough in 1 year to have it remain now that he's gone? I don't know. Will Brennan live up to the Burrow hype? No. You're not liable to see a quarterback put up Joe Burrow numbers at LSU again in your lifetime. You're just not. What Joe Burrow did last year was just unbelievable. So yes, I know they're talented. I know they're loaded with 4 and 5 stars, but they always have been. And they always have a hard time getting over the hump and winning the West. It's a very tough division. They lost 16 starters to the NFL. They've had multiple players opt out. I think LSU's in for what they're probably going to end up considering a down year. 3 or 4 losses probably for LSU. This won't be one of them. They're going to beat Mississippi State. Mississippi State brings a brand new coaching staff into Death Valley, 3:30 on CBS. Like I mentioned, they're a 16.5 point underdog. Mike Leach in the air raid, air it out offense that he ran, first at Texas Tech and then at Washington State before coming out of the SEC and Mississippi State. Mississippi State does not have the players to run that type of offense, in my opinion. Even when Dan Mullen was there, they were not throwing the ball 40 times a game. Dak Prescott, how many passes a game did Dak Prescott even average at Mississippi State, who was, of course, the best quarterback that Mullen had there? 15, 18 maybe, 20 at the most? I don't know what Mike Leach is going to do year one. If he tries to run that type of offense with the personnel that's currently on the field at Mississippi State, I'm not sure how well it will work. If he doesn't run that type of offense, then we're looking at a round hole square peg situation. A coach that wants to do one thing, but players that are forcing him to do something else. I don't know what we're going to get here from Mississippi State. Most people seem to think that Mississippi State will be better in year one than Ole Miss will be in year one, both with new coaching staffs. I disagree. I think Ole Miss will be the better team. With all that being said, 16.5 is a lot of points to give LSU with a 30% crowd. This is another place that traditionally is extremely hard to play, LSU. What impact is it going to have when you're missing 70% of the fans? It's going to have some. I mean, listen, you cannot spend your entire adult life bragging about what an amazing home field advantage you have and how crazy the fans are and how much the fans impact the games for you. You can't spend your entire adult life doing that And then when you have 30% capacity, try to tell me that it doesn't matter at all. It clearly matters. It doesn't matter enough for Mississippi State to win this game, but it matters. I'm going to take Mississippi State in the points in this one. Give me the Bulldogs, late of 16.5. All right, 4 o'clock over on the SEC Network. We've got Georgia on the road at Arkansas. Georgia comes in ranked 4th and currently a 28-point favorite. Now, just to be truthful and honest with you guys, the lines for these games typically come out on Sunday afternoons. When this game came out on Sunday, Georgia was only a 24.5-point favorite, and I bet it at that point. I bet Georgia minus 24.5 in this game. It's up to 28 now. If you've been following my channel for a while, then you know all offseason long, I have been saying Georgia should beat Arkansas by 28 points. That was the number. I must have said it 1,000 times. The number right now is where I think it should be, 28. I don't think there's an obvious play on either side here. I don't think it's obvious to take Arkansas plus 28. I don't think it's obvious to take UGA minus 28. If you're high on Georgia, lay to 28. If you have questions about Georgia, the quarterback, new offensive coordinator, new offensive system, Jamie Newman opted out 2 weeks ago. JT Daniels isn't cleared to play. It looks like DeJuan Mathis is going to be the guy. If you have a lot of those kinds of questions and you're not sure how Georgia's going to perform, maybe you take Arkansas in the 28. I give approximately a 0% chance to Arkansas of winning this game. They're one of the worst teams, not just in the SEC, but in the Power 5. I like Sam Pittman. I appreciate what he did in his time at UGA. He helped Georgia develop one of the best offensive line units in America. Not just 1 year, but year over year, and stockpiled with more. We're loaded on the offensive line with 4 and 5 stars for this year and the next couple of years to come, and it doesn't look like that's slowing down anytime soon. And the majority of that is thanks to Sam Pittman. Got no hard feelings or ill will towards Sam Pittman taking his shot and going to Arkansas as a head coach. He's loved in Arkansas. He spent a lot of time there before coming to Georgia. I have nothing but good things to say about Sam Pittman. And I wish Sam Pittman well this season after this week. This is just it's almost an unfair position to put Sam Pittman in. A guy with no head coaching experience, not even any coordinator experience. You give him the keys to Arkansas, one of the least talented teams in the Power 5 and one of the worst teams talent-wise in the Power 5, and ask him to open up with Georgia at home in week 1. It just seems almost unfair. I think Georgia will roll in this game. I don't think it'll be close or competitive. If it is, I'm liable to have a stroke, a heart attack, and a coronary, all three at the same time. Give me Georgia, late to 28. Primetime game, starting off 7 o'clock ESPN. Number 2, Bama on the road at the Zoo. Bama at Mizzou. Bama comes in as this is an important number. 27.5-point favorite. Bet Bama now. Bama under 4 touchdowns against either the second or third worst team in the SEC, in my opinion, Missouri. I'm all over it. Give me Bama late at 27.5. They're going to start Mac Jones, but I fully expect Bryce Young to play. It can be dangerous to lay these high numbers because you don't know what a team's going to do in the second half if they're up by a large margin, right? I go back to Alabama in 2018, though. They pretended to have a quarterback battle heading into the season, even though we all knew it was going to be Tua. Sure enough, Tua gets to start. Jalen Hurts becomes the backup, right? All year long, Alabama jumped out to 40-point halftime leads. In the third quarter, in comes Jalen Hurts, and he handed the ball off 40 times in a row, right? Wrong. Jalen Hurts came in the third quarter of those games and was throwing 80-yard touchdown passes to Jerry Jeudy. Nick Saban, almost more than any other coach in America, prepares his backup by letting him run the actual offense. The score does not matter. Alabama's not in the business of running up scores. That's just a product of developing their second-string offense and quarterback. I expect that to be the case this week at Mizzou. Mac Jones is going to start. I think we'll see Bryce Young. I think we'll see him a lot. And I do not think we'll see him handing the ball off 40 times in the second half. They're going to let him run the Alabama offense. It's a good philosophy if you think about it, especially in a COVID year where you could lose any player, including your starting quarterback, at any time. You better have your backup prepared. Nick Saban's been doing that for the last 2 or 3 years. I don't see any reason why it'll be different this go-around. Missouri will not be able to slow down Alabama's offense. And contrary to what you saw with your own eyes last year when you watched Alabama, Alabama's defense is going to be legit in 2020. Write that down. I get it. They were bad last year, especially for a Nick Saban coached defense. One of the worst defenses we've seen in Alabama in Nick Saban's time there. You got to go back to his first couple of years probably to find one that bad. That will not be the case this year. Alabama played a ton of freshmen and sophomores on the defensive side of the ball last year. They had a lot of injuries. Right now, none of those things are a concern. All those freshmen and sophomores that were forced to play last year, they're playing again with a year's worth of experience. They started 2 freshmen at inside linebacker last year. Again, look at Alabama and what they had to work with last year as compared to what they have now. Alabama's defense this year is going to be a lot closer to the best defenses Nick Saban has had than it was to what we saw last year. I think Alabama rolls in this game. Give me Alabama and anything under 4 touchdowns. I'll definitely lay to 27.5. Give me the Gumps. 7:30, SEC alternate network, Vandy at Texas A&M. Texas A&M ranked 10th, and they're a 30.5 point favorite. Vandy is one, again, you're talking to one of the 3 worst teams in the SEC here. Them, Arkansas, maybe you throw Missouri in there. This is just a mismatch in my opinion. I'm not Kellen Mond's biggest fan. I love the idea of Kellen Mond. I just don't like, I don't like the reality of Kellen Mond. A guy comes out in one game and looks absolutely amazing, comes out a week later and looks like he's never seen a football before. And he's been doing this year after year after year after year at Texas A&M. It seems like this guy's been in college forever. He's the new J.T. Barrett. I think he was at Texas A&M during Y2K, Kellen Mond was. And he never really seems to get any better. And more importantly, he doesn't seem to get any more consistent. And people thought maybe with Jimbo Fisher coming in, there was something he could do there. And it just hasn't worked out. Texas A&M is one of the weirdest teams to sort of analyze because you look at their you look at their record last year, 7-5, and you go, oh well, that's not a very good team. It might have been the best 7-5 team in America though. But here's the point: all 5 of their losses last year, Clemson, Bama, LSU, Georgia, Auburn, all 5 of their losses were to top 10 teams. So people say, well, a lot of teams would lose to those teams. Yeah, that's true. But if you want to be considered a good team, if you want to be considered a top 10 team, they've got them ranked at 10th. If you're a top 10 team, you have to beat some top 10 team. So, we all know Georgia and Bama were good last year. LSU was good. Auburn was good. Clemson was good. We all know that. And no one's expecting Texas A&M to go out and go 5-0 against those teams. But you got to beat one of them, don't you? If you want to be taken seriously, I think you do. With all that being said, Vandy's just absolutely horrible. They cannot compete in this game. Texas A&M has played well in week 1 games the last few years, particularly last year. Now, it's been non-con games a lot of times. But anyway, point is, Texas A&M could score 50 points in this game. So you got to ask yourself, they're favored by 30.5. Can Vandy get to 21? No, I'm not going to bet this game. This is one of those things kind of scares me off, that 30.5. What if they take Mond out? Who goes in after that? I don't know. They've got some young talent at Texas A&M, so maybe they let them play the whole game to get them the experience. But the number just scares me. I think Texas A&M can win this game by almost as much as they want, but I'm not convinced they'll play the style of football in the second half that it takes to beat a team by 30.5 points. No way I would take Vandy here, even with the 30 points, but I can't take Texas A&M either. So this is a pass for me, but Texas A&M will roll in this game. All right, last game of the day, 7:30 on the SEC Network. Number 16, Tennessee on the road at South Carolina. Tennessee has the second longest winning streak in the SEC. They return a quarterback. They return a running back. They return one of, if not the best offensive lines in the SEC. Jeremy Pruitt is a mastermind on the defensive side of the ball. Tennessee is set up to have an amazing season. South Carolina, on the other hand, is an absolute dumpster fire. They won 3 or 4 games last year. They're starting a guy that no one has ever heard of, that hasn't had a haircut since 2012. They don't have a whole lot of talent. They finished last or next to last in the SEC in rushing almost every single year since Will Muschamp got there. Will Muschamp's on the hot seat. No, he's not because of coronavirus. Oh, yes, he is. 13 players jumped to walk on. Or did they? No, the walk on stole something. Are you sure he stole something? Did he steal something because he got beat up? Did he get beat up because he stole something? What's going to happen with those 13 players? No one knows. Point is, South Carolina is absolutely terrible. Tennessee's the talk of the town. 6-game winning streak. All these returning players. Tennessee is a whopping 3.5 point favorite on the road at South Carolina. Now, this game, that seems wrong when you first look at it. General perception to me is that Tennessee is at least a couple of touchdowns better than South Carolina. But when you start looking into things, this game could get interesting. Maybe Will Muschamp is coaching for his coaching life, right? What about the history of this game, particularly the recent history, the last 10 years? All but once or twice in the last 10 years, this game has been decided by a touchdown or less. Tennessee beat the brakes off of South Carolina last year, but that was Tennessee's first ever win over Will Muschamp. That's right. Even when Will Muschamp was at Florida, driving them into the ground with 4-win seasons, he still managed to beat Tennessee every year. And up until last year in his time at South Carolina, he beat Tennessee every single year. So Tennessee now improves to 1-7 against Will Muschamp. Can they make it 2-7 on the road in Columbia this Saturday? If I'd have made this video any other day but today, I would have taken Tennessee and laid the 3.5 without even thinking. I've changed my mind. Give me the game chickens. Give me the dirt peckers. And the 3.5 points, though, in case this is a close game. Carolina, keep it close. This will be a low-scoring game, too, in my opinion. Low-scoring game. First one of 20 wins, but give me South Carolina and 3.5 points. Good morning, Voltards. There you have it. That's the rundown of SEC games for this week, which, like I mentioned, is technically week 4 of the 2020 college football season, but week 1 of the SEC. I'm excited. I know you guys are too. Finally, we've got good games here to watch, all 3 time slots. There's been some good games to watch in the other weeks too, but now that the SEC is joining in, and in a couple of weeks we got the Big Ten joining in, it's going to start to feel more like a normal college football season. I'm excited to sit down and watch these games on Saturday. I know you guys are too. Good luck to all your teams except Arkansas. I hope all your teams win, even though I know that's physically impossible. Because half these teams have to lose. Speaking of that, is this the first Saturday that all 14 SEC teams have played other SEC teams? You've got 7 SEC games. They're all SEC versus SEC. I don't know that we've had that. Usually you got somebody who's got a bye week, or somebody's playing Helen Keller School of the Blind, or you got rivalry weekend, and so some teams are playing an ACC team. It's very rare to have all 14 SEC teams playing on the same day, and they're all conference games. Take advantage of this. Watch these games on Saturday. This is going to make it a very interesting season. But I hope all your teams do well, except Arkansas. Tomorrow, Arkansas, man, I've got a video for you. Yeah, that's right. Hype and Hate will make his triumphant return tomorrow, Friday, for the Georgia-Arkansas game. And don't forget, coming up later this afternoon, I have a second one of these preview and prediction videos where I'll be doing a preview and prediction of some of the other non-SEC games coming up this weekend, including the Florida State and Miami circus that kicks off primetime, the ABC game of the week this Saturday. And yeah, there's a new super fan, and he has something to say about the Miami-Florida State game. I'll see you guys then. Have a good morning.